carpet because he spoke here first, and he was actually their guest. And he spoke here. And some of you may remember this. It was a red carpet. And so after he was interviewed by Dr. Macnab, we processed him with bagpipes across the street to hand him over to our Presbyterian friends. It was, I loved it. Where was I? Jesus, that's right. Jesus, what's really amazing, what he did often is he went off by himself. He went off by himself for a time of silence and solitude that he might remember that original intimacy. And what's amazing to me, sometimes we put so much focus on his words. And what's interesting to me, what did he say? What did he not say? And that's fascinating. But what's also interesting to me is what he did. And one of the things, if you look in the Gospels, that's always amazing to me, it says, well, Jesus went off while it was still dark in silence and solitude. When he did that, after that, generally speaking, all heck broke loose. Generally speaking, when he that is fantastic. When Jesus connected, remembered, when he remembered, he then became fully present to others. And in being fully present, people experienced the presence of his love, of his heart, and there was healing. It's fascinating stuff. Even if it's at a metaphoric level, it's amazing therapeutic stuff. Today's story, the leper. Now, lepers in the time of Jesus, you probably know lepers, you couldn't be more rejected than a leper. You couldn't be more shunned than a leper. You couldn't be more cast aside than lepers, just because they had a skin disease, not in control themselves. Lepers, if somebody came near, a leper had to shout, "Unclean!" so that the person would know and stay away. Can you imagine what that would do to your sense of self? They were invisible. They were unworthy. They were shamed. What it says today, Jesus saw the leper. It says he saw him. He listened. He heard. When's the last time you felt really seen? Really seen? When is the last time that somebody, they weren't trying to fix you, they weren't judging you, they weren't criticizing you, they weren't waiting for you to finish so that they could then give you advice or tell you a story from their own life, but they saw you. Can you recall a time where you felt really listened to? That's healing. Where somebody lets go of their own agenda, lets go of all of that judgment. They allow you to speak from your own experience. And they hear you, they listen. That's love. And it's healing. In our Bible reading today, it says that Jesus saw, heard, listened. And when that happens, you remember. You remember that which life has beaten out of you. In the beginning, there was relationship, communion, union, love. Let me finish with one last story. A friend of mine is a youth pastor. I go on mission trips with the youth of our church just to remind myself that's not my calling. But he's a youth pastor in San Francisco. and he's an amazing guy, Mark Iaconelli. And he told me the story of a young guy in his youth group in San Francisco. And this young guy, his name is John Keating. John is just a big bulk of a guy, kind of tall, intimidating for a young man. And on his third visit to the youth group, John Keating says to my friend, the youth pastor, "I don't believe in God. Bunch of crap. I'm here to get away from my parents and because there are cute girls in this group. And I just want you to know that I'm not buying any of this Christian baloney." My friend said, "Thank you. Thanks for your honesty, but know that you're welcome. You're welcome." So John Keating came to this group for 5 or 6 months, and John was part of a gang of kids that robbed homes. What my friend found later on is did Dr. Macnab do something to the people across the street? What John was part of a gang of kids that robbed homes, and what my friend discovered later on is John had a drug addiction, and he was stealing petty cash to buy drugs, and he was arrested. Now, he had the choice to go to either juvenile detention center or a drug rehab program, and the drug rehab program was in Colorado. It was one of these outward bound experiences. Do you know what that is? Where you go out in the wilderness and they give you 2 poles and a tarp and say, "There's your tent." And you hike up into a mountain and you live in the wilderness for 5 weeks with counselors. And one of the hikes is for 3 days by yourself, in silence and in solitude. Silence is God's first language. Herman Melville said silence is the very voice of God. And the heart of this program is that these young people might, in the silence and solitude, that they might remember. In the beginning, there was relationship. And it's that relationship that they yearn for. So John opted for the outward bound wilderness program and not juvenile detention center. So he left for the program. Now, my friend was telling me that after about 6 weeks, he was preparing for one of his nights in the youth group, and he was trying to come up with ideas, and he had a friend who was really into drama. And so he thought, let's do role play. So he gathered his youth together, and he said to his youth, "Well, here's the deal. You all tell me how embarrassed you are to let your friends know that you go to a church. We're going to sort that out tonight. We're going to role play that." So he put a table and 2 chairs. And he said, "Well, one person here, this is the Christian chair. I want this person to play the role that they're pretty excited about their faith and they're excited about the difference their faith makes. That's this chair. This chair thinks Christianity is stupid, irrelevant, hypocritical, non-judgmental, judgmental. And I want you to imagine that you're in the cafeteria at school and you're playing both these roles." Okay, you with me so far? So Kim volunteers to sit in the Christian chair. And Kim is bubbly and positive and enthusiastic and one of these people you just love to be around. And Chris, who's angry at everything and everybody, he's been in 8 foster homes in the last 10 years. He's in this youth group because he skateboards around the church and they have snacks. So that's why he comes. So he sits in the chair that thinks Christianity is stupid. And they begin the role play. And Kim starts, "I believe in God because the Bible's..." Chris interrupts right away. "The Bible's stupid. Bible's a bunch of crap. I don't believe in the Bible. And, it's kind of doesn't make any sense. Forget the Bible." Well, they had a rule in this role play. All you have to do is raise your hand, and you can be replaced. If you feel stuck, just raise your hand. Well, the minute Chris says, "I don't believe in the Bible," Kim raises her hand. And William gets up, takes her place.